You guys, you know this is the Reimagine You Lab Podcast, and I want to welcome everybody in. This is another edition, and I want to thank you for joining me here. It is MG. You guys know how we do, so I want to make sure that everybody is ready for another hyped up edition. You see that we've got a great show, and before we jump in, I want to make sure that we do a little bit of that wonderful housekeeping that we always do, which is make sure you hit the subscribe button because I don't want you to miss an episode, especially when we're getting into this year. It's 2024, and I want to make sure that you don't miss any episodes because this year is going to be amazing. So make sure that you share this post, share this episode with any of your family, your friends, or colleagues, because we're always talking about change. You know, in the lab, this is where we come in to test hypothesis. We are going to look at different perspectives. We're going to try new ideas because change is just a choice. And I want to also make sure that you are reminded that we come back every Friday. So those are my things that I want to make sure that you guys know. And you know that because you see all of these beautiful people here, you know that we're doing something different. And the man is in the building today with all of the wonderful women because we're celebrating Women's History Month. Yay! So I want to introduce you to the one, the only Maurice Jenkins Sr, who is doing the takeover of the lab. So Maurice, let me hand the mic off to you. What's up?
Thank you, MG. It is so good to be here to celebrate another opportunity to be with some fabulous people. MG is just a phenomenal. She is a phenomenal strategist putting purpose together, and so based on her purpose, she's put together. She's given me a chance to do my final takeover. I don't know if you well, I know you all joined us on the very first Women's History Month celebration podcast. So this is the conclusion of our weeks of Women's History Month. However, we will celebrate this 365. But MG, thank you for allowing me with the takeover. I'm hyped. I'm so hyped. And so I have some lovely ladies I want to introduce you to. I'm going to say their names, and then we're going to go ahead and just jump right in because I have a lot of questions that I want to get addressed, and I'll give them a chance to, as you know, introduce themselves as they go forward in their fashion. But we have the phenomenal Dr. Jerry Anderson, we have Dr. Asega, and we have the phenomenal Dana Dossett. So, MG, thank you for having me. I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to I'm going to ask some questions. I have five I want to get through. If I don't have enough time, I'm going to cut them short, but I have five questions that I want to get through. So let's do this. Let's start. First of all, uh, I want to thank all of the women who made Women's History Month come to fruition. All the women of the world, thank you for what you do. That's number one. Number two, I want to start getting these questions going so we can have this fabulous podcast. So, Michelle, thank you for the platform. So, for my phenomenal panel, first question is going to be, please tell me women who have inspired you personally and professionally. Let that resonate for a moment. Women who have inspired you personally and professionally.
Can I give one personal and one professional?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to say personally, it has to be my grandmother. We lost her last year, 99 years old, and talk about strength and resilience and somebody who always had my back, felt like she was my best friend forever. She was the one who said, there is nothing about you can't do, you will do, you know? Uh, just quickly, I remember I got back into town, just came back from South America. It was time for school to start. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get a job. She said, girl, get dressed. We're going to get a job right now. Guess what? We went and got a job. That's just who she was, you know? And then my wonderful professor, Dr. Barbara Swaby, she was my first African-American female professor, first one that I knew who had her doctorate. And I would tell you, she's just an inspiration. I remember asking her, hey, Dr. Swaby, do you think I could get my doctorate too? She said, yeah, you can get your doctorate. Now, here's some things you're going to have to do. Very straight, just wonderful. I learned so much from her and just a professional woman that I aspire to be like. So those are my two women.
I'll go next. I'm going to copy off of you, Dr. Jerry. My grandmother was my personal and my professional number one, probably my lifelong soulmate. She taught me all of the lessons I know today. There isn't a day that doesn't go by. I lost her in 97 that I don't think of her. She taught me how to be a professional. She changed her life so that I could be a professional. And she set the groundwork by leaving Cheyenne, Wyoming, and going to Oxford in the 30s to get her degree in England. And so she was just a pioneer in so many ways, became a college professor, ended her career as an administrator at Denver Public Schools, and always, always is my Nana. And then the other thing I will say is that I am a fan of biographies and autobiographies. And so there is such a long line of women, from Mary McLeod Bethune to Shirley Chisholm to Nzinga. I love to call the names of Black women, Septima Clark, Harriet Tubman, who have made a difference, so many of them. And my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Steele at Bromwell Elementary. So many Black women have made a difference in my life, and I proudly stand on their shoulders.
And for me, I know it's very cliche to say family members, but I mean, that's who really influences you when you're first growing up. So I would say both my mother and then my sister, for a lot of the same reasons. Again, using some of the same words that have already been mentioned, such as strong, resilient, and I'll just have to say this, badass. Because like, for example, my sister right now, she's the director of minority affairs for the state of Alabama under the governor. I mean, you don't get there because you don't have anything better to do. I mean, she was personally asked to be in that position. And so my sister is definitely someone that I have always looked up to, partly because she's older than me. No, I say I haven't looked up to her because she's only 5 feet tall. Sorry, Stacey. but but just really those two, and my mother was really serious about motherhood. It wasn't an accident for her. She was very methodical. She was very thoughtful. She was very caring on purpose. Even before we might have gotten in trouble, she would sit us down and say, I want you to understand why you're getting in trouble, because it matters for the future. I mean, we didn't just get in trouble. She would actually, who does that? Who actually just sits you down? And she would wait until we could ask all the questions that we could possibly have before she would, let us know, okay, you ready? To this day, really still um, uh, matters to me is Harriet Tubman. And the reason why is because she risked her life to go back and get others. And I fashioned myself after that. It really is important to me. As you know, I've been involved in the community, and that's because I really do care about my fellow man. And so when I think about all that she had to go through and think about giving up so much of her life to help others, she definitely is a role model for me. And I try to fashion my life and my thoughts and my attitude and my beliefs even after Harriet Tubman.
All right, thank you, Dana. MG, round us out.
Hang on a second. For whatever reason, the recording stopped. Y'all see the recording stop button at 6:57?
Do you think it's because it's full again?
No, it's not, because we were gifted, the show was gifted a full set of recording. So I don't know. So like we have like 50 hours of space for the show. So it's not that. Uh-oh.
And you're frozen too, I think.
You're frozen, but my screen says we're recording.
Mine says recording
too. So then what's gonna happen is then we're gonna just keep on, we're gonna keep going. So now we're gonna have the editor.
But you're not there at all right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can come back. I don't know if it's my internet connection or what. So here, I'm going to remove. Hang on, let me do this. All right. So, Maurice, you said, who was my inspiration personally and professionally. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have to say, just like the ladies before me, of course, inside the house, it was my mom, my grandma were they were the people, because my mom was one of those, she was a young single mom, and she did not want to participate in the government system, so she worked, right? And so if I get my work ethic from no other place, it was Sharon Graham. She was that girl that young, but she was gritty, and she was out there. She was going to make sure that she was taking care of the kiddos. And so she was a very hardworking young woman. She did a lot to make sure that we had the things that we needed, and that we knew what it took to get things done. And so that was the example that she provided for us. And so, so we spent a lot of time at grandma's house. It was almost like, my grandma was that second mom, right? And grandma always had all the things that there's a more caught than taught, right? Like there's those things that you learned inside of the house that you made sure you did. You kept your stomach tucked in. You made sure that you kept your mouth shut when you didn't need to be speaking. You didn't tell all of the family details, and you made sure you knew how to cook, you knew how to clean, you knew how to take care of all of the details. Listen, and when I was a young woman, there were things that I knew how to do and make sure that the household ran well. And I attribute all of those things to my grandmother, who worked inside of the home, but she made sure that she could run a business. I'm pretty sure that she could have been a CEO had she wanted to. And then professionally, I have to, gosh, there were just so many, but I think the one when I first got into the work world, there was a young lady by the name of Tina Randolph, and Tina Randolph passed away back in 2002, but she was the young lady that really took me under her wing when I first started working at DST, first getting out of school. She was the one who just showed me everything in my first corporate job. She showed me, Michelle, make sure that you show up, on time is no, early is on time, and on time is late. And so she was like, make sure that you get here, start early, plan your day, plan tomorrow, today, before you leave. Ensure that you've had goals. What are the things that you want to do? That was your dress for success, dress for the job that you wanted, 2 steps ahead. There were just things that that she taught, and I could just ride her coattails. She was the one who showed me about what we needed to do to be promoted. And so she was that person that really gave me, again, a model to follow after. And I just appreciate Miss Tina for doing that for me. So
Absolutely. Well,
for my people.
thank you, MG. On to our next question. Ladies, tell me one lesson that you've learned that's helped you be resilient. One lesson you've learned that's helped you to be resilient. It can be personally or professionally, either one you want to go with.
You know what? I'll start that one off. So I don't know, Maurice. I think being African American females, I kind of feel like that was one of those things that you learn when you was in diapers. I kind of feel like that was just a part of the DNA. You just kind of born with that. It came in the neighborhoods that we grew up in. It came with the way that you learned in school. It came as a part of it was just part of the equipment. I felt like was in the diaper bag. Like there was just things. You had brothers and sisters and other small children. Like even I was the firstborn, so I feel like um, resilient. You learned how to deal with not having. I grew up, as I said, as with a single parent. So there were some things that we couldn't afford, and you learned how to um, live without, and you learned how to take care of those who were a little younger than you. You learned how to, just kind of prepare. like you just learned how to be responsible. And I think that when you have to, you just know how, you learn how. And so it was just kind of a part of the equipment that, you just, I don't, when I say some things are just caught and not taught, it's not a lesson that you got on resilience. It's just kind of part of the what you learn because it was, you needed it. And so I don't have a specific example.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna pass the mic to the next young lady that maybe they've got a better example of how they forged it. But I just kind of feel like, man, that was just one of those things you just you just kind of got.
I do have a specific, and I will say that it was still caught instead of specifically taught per se. And that is that my father passed away when I was 9 years old. And so my mother became a single mother at the age of 38, which was relatively young, with three children. And I had, she made sure that our life did not change. Luckily, way back in the 70s, my dad had insurance. He had a will. They had done everything that they needed to make sure that our lifestyle would not change, and it didn't. And so as a result, she worked very hard. And later on in life, I said, gosh, you really had to sacrifice, I'm sure, to make sure that our life, like, I don't know what you had to do to make sure that our life didn't change. But by watching her and making sure that, or listening to her, she taught me so much just by watching her still make sure that what needed to be done was done. She still sat us down. She still, like, everything that she had done before my dad passed away, she continued after he passed away. If anything, she got more stronger and more resilient about it, and more thoughtful and more intentional about it, because she knew that it was important. So one thing that helped me become resilient is just to learn that death is part of life, and that there are certain things that are going to happen in life that are just part of life. And so I think learning that at an early age, through death and through some of the other experiences that we had in our household, I think really did teach me to be resilient, because I just knew that certain things are just part of life. You've got to roll with it and make sure that you may not be able to stand up right away, but most importantly, you still need to get up and keep it moving.
I'm going to add mine next. So I would say I actually had to unlearn something to be resilient. I did. I listened to the story really that MG shared and that Dana shared, and it brought sadness to me, because I grew up in a family with my mother, my father, and my mother divorced when I was 2. My mother really struggled. She was a sandwich maker and a file clerker, had to put herself through college. My grandmother was the rock, but I watched the women in my family do the impossible all of the time. And I watched the women around me. All of the women in my family got advanced degrees. All of the women in the generation ahead of me, all of the women in the generation ahead of them all had college degrees. And they all had children and carried some level of burden. And so I did that too. Let me do what all these women are doing. And at some point, when I made the decision to choose psychiatry, when I was choosing my medical specialty, my grandmother was like, "Oh, thank God you chose psychiatry, because there's so many people that need it." And I was like, "What are you talking about, Nana? What?" And she said, and started telling me stories of how women were broken in her history, how my great grandmother left the home after she had to take care of her grandmother, and a whole series of other things happened. And so it got very sad. I don't know any other way to say it. And so I was like, okay, well, I got a lot of work to do. I got to be resilient so I can do this. And then finally, what I learned was you can't take care of other people until you take care of yourself. And that was a journey for me. So I had to unlearn that you always have to be there. And I watched many of the women that I know, many of the women I still know, constantly work on being there. It's almost like second nature, because again, it is caught and not taught, or taught through being caught, or somehow it's in that web of who Black women are. But then I learned that I was not myself if I didn't take care of myself. And I actually learned it through physical exercise, which people would say, you need to exercise. And I was like, no, thank you. And then things got so bad in my life that I took to walking. I started that 10,000 steps. And what I realized is I would start off angry, mad, frustrated, burdened, and I would end up at peace. And so over and through exercise, I actually relearned resilience. I learned that I could still do many of the things that I needed to do, but sometimes I needed to say no. Sometimes I needed to take a walk or do other things to take care of myself.
Well, I'm gonna start the light-hearted part of it. My grandmother, my family bowls, whole family bowls, right? And my grandmother, I was a bowling woman, right? She bowled way into her 90s. Let me tell you, before COVID, she was still bowling. But she would say something. She'd say, Jerry Lee, the ball will be right back. So no matter if you throw it in the gutter, no matter what you do, it'll be right back. And you got to go out there and you got to do it again, right? And so that's my funny way. I think about that all the time when I'm playing tennis, when I'm just dealing with situations. Hey, the ball will be right back. No matter what happened to it, it'll be right back. But I really think my childhood is what really taught me resilience. We grew up in a single parent household. And I think one of the things that adds to our household, a dynamic that we don't talk about in our Black community, and that is dealing with mental illness. And how much when someone deals with mental illness in your household, and especially if they're a caregiver and they're the main person, it is interesting because sometimes as a Black community, we don't embrace those households, we shun them. And one of the things I learned as a child, when I had people say things to me like, oh, we can't come over your house, or I can't be your friend. I like you, but I can't be friends with you. That kind of stuff, just that kind of shunning thing, that kind of thing that made me feel alone and isolated with very few people outside of my household, besides my family. I was like, nah, I'm good. And I remember coming back to Denver in my first year when I was principal of Denver East. And one of those people in my life that made me feel like I was nothing and could never be anyone showed up. One of those moms who didn't want to have her. Oh, you need to call my daughter. You ought to call and have a conversation with her. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I don't need your daughter now. When I needed your daughter is when I was a kid, when I needed friends, when I needed people to connect with. That's when I needed somebody. And I was like, no, thank you. I'm good. Because I had to learn that what you have inside of you can uplift and hold you sometimes when you don't have the people around you who want to be your friend, who want to be there with you, who want to have your back. Sometimes you got to have your own back. And it's okay to have your own back. You just keep on going and keep on stepping and just know that ball will be right back.
Wow. 4 phenomenal stories. Thank you, ladies. This is so enriching. Let me keep going.
Yeah.
Third question. I want to ask you all some advice that you would give your 25-year-old self. What advice today would you give your 25-year-old self? That's going to be a good one.
Well, let me go first because I might have the different answer maybe. I don't know that I would give myself any advice at 25 because for me, it's doing at 25, getting to where I am now at 57. It took all of the experiences that I had. And I'm afraid that if I would give that person some advice, who's to say that it would make me a better person? So I don't know that I would give myself necessarily any advice other than one little small piece of advice, and that is to invest $100 a month at the age of 25 and keep it going no matter what. Now, that would be the only advice I'd give because if I had done it at age 25, you know where I'd be right now with compound interest. But other than that, I've enjoyed my life. Some parts have been difficult, some parts have been wonderful. And so other than saving $100 a month, starting at age 25 and making sure that you have insurance and keeping your insurance up, from car insurance to home insurance to personal insurance, life insurance, whatever, you need to have it. And as early as you can get it, the better. But financial literacy definitely would be my advice.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think the advice I would have given 25-year-old me is the same advice I give my daughters who range in age from 22 to 28. And that is that life is a journey and that you learn lessons along the way and be patient with yourself. Do the best you can and gather everything you can from every experience, the good ones, the bad ones, the hard ones, the easy ones. That journey is your life, and enjoy the journey. Try to be in the moment and enjoy it. That would be the advice.
Okay.
I would say that very much in line with what Dana said. I don't have any regrets. 25, I was a mother of two. I was married. I was beginning my career, and I feel good about the choices that I made. I wouldn't have minded that little bit of financial advice too. Um, if there was one thing I would tell myself, and that is just to go for it. Just be confident and go for it. Don't hold back. Don't doubt yourself. Just go do it. You can do it. I would tell myself that.
Okay. MG, we'll round it out with you.
Yeah, you know what? At 25, um, yeah, I think I would tell myself just keep doing what you was doing. Because at 25, I was fearless. I think the older I got, yeah, 25, I would say keep doing what you were doing. At that time, I have got my I'd taken a job at Hallmark Cars, and I was traveling every week, and I was going places I had not been before, and I wasn't scared. And I think the older I got, I started getting more fearful. I was like, I wanted to hold on to all the things that I had and was doing, but I was adventurous. At 25, I was adventurous. So like then at 25, keep doing, like don't stop. Like that's the time. Like, you didn't have children at the time. I didn't. There was nothing that was stopping me from doing the things that I wanted to do and seeing the things that I seen, going the places I wanted to go. So I was just keep doing the things you want to do, and it, yeah, like, yeah, I would tell myself keep going.
Okay. Okay. Well, ladies, what advice would you give? This is a good one. This is a good one. What advice would you give Black men to uplift or empower Black women? Told you it was gonna be a good one.
That is a good one.
It
I
is.
would say to pay attention to us, to hear us, to listen to us, to be there for us. Really, it's some of the simple things that you would hope you could expect from a partner or in a relationship anyway, and even from Black man just at large, it would be the same because a lot of times we are overlooked by so many people, from our children who just see us as a mom, from our spouses who just see us as a wife, from all angles, people who just see us and but don't really see us. So I would say to see us, to hear us, to listen to us, to pay attention to us, and more importantly and simply, just love us. That's what I would say.
That's good. I would say partner with us, like just like partner with us. Like I really believe that men and women um today, just like if we the things that we can do together, like I really think that together, men and women, they can really do some things complementary of each other. There's that yin and that yang. Like if you're not competing with each other, but really taking the strengths and the I won't even say weaknesses, but really seeing how we fit together and using it and capitalizing on the things that each brings to the table makes a really winning combination. And I see when you put them together and look at them that way, that you can really get the very best out of both. I see it as a winning combination. So when you can partner together, um, man, you can just see things move at the speed of light and go. The altitude, man, is you can't stop it. You can really go somewhere. So I say if they partner with us.
Jerry and I are looking at each other. I don't know, Jerry, if you're looking at me. I was looking at you. I really like that answer of partnership. I'll tell you what sprung in my mind right away, which is probably a little controversial. I don't know. I'm going to say it anyway.
Say it.
The status of a group of women tells about the power of the men. So I think what I would probably say is we are one. We are tied together. I think humans come in male and female flavors, and we have different tasks, different strengths, and different jobs to do. And I'm not, trying to place everything in gender camps, so please don't hear that. But what I'm saying is that we are all in this together. When you talk about Black people, you're talking about Black men and Black women. And so we have a responsibility as a community to partner. If you're a Black man, you're responsible for being everybody's father, everybody's uncle, everybody's grandfather, everybody's male leader, male keeper. If you're a female, you have those opposite gender roles. You're responsible to the community, and you do that through partnership. So I like that term, partnership. Both you and Dana use that term, but I do think that we have an ethical responsibility to the community to be leaders in our community. All four of us talked about being raised by single women, which is interesting. I heard somebody else talk about a committee. I was raised by a committee of three: my mother, my aunt, my grandmother. And that idea that we were women alone, but there were men. There were men in our family who were there for us. My uncles, my cousins, my uncle who was born in 1893, who saved the day for us over and over and over again, and did not pass away until I was an adult in the 80s. He came through for us. So that what I would say is you will look around in our community and you will see holes, either in the feminine or the masculine roles, and you fill those holes based on who you see yourself to be and the niche you can fill in partnership.
So my answer is right in line with that. I would say, if I were talking to Black men right now, I would say, you are my king, but I am your queen. And we have to honor, respect, love each other, and uplift each other. There's too many things in society that can break us down, tear us apart, and as long as we can have that mutual respect and really purposefully support each other in our endeavors, we will go further together than we will go separately.
Man, that's huge. I want to get my little input here since I have taken over the show. I think as a Black man, in regards to advice received, I received that advice that you've given. But my other piece is, as a Black man, we need to do a couple of things. One, we need to listen. Two, we need to stop trying to fix everything. Men always want to fix everything. Sometimes don't fix it, just listen. Because as you're trying to fix it, you didn't even hear what the whole problem was, and you've already come up with the solution. So I think the partnership is so key. I had a conversation with a colleague of mine a couple of days ago in regard to being submissive and the whole piece of who's the head of the house, that whole thing. And as a king, you're supposed to be the leader, but you're also supposed to take wise counsel. So if you can't take wise counsel, listen and stop trying to fix things so much. I think a lot of us will get along better if we empowered each other. We empowered each other to have that partnership. So I think that's huge. Ladies, it's phenomenal. My time is winding down. I have one last question I want to ask. Please let me know, what is on your bucket list? Is that a good one? What's on your bucket list? While you're thinking, I'll tell you my bucket list idea is to take my family, which the lady on here, Dr. Anderson, we almost have an opportunity to travel as much as we can. My goal is to take her to Cape Town and then to go to Madagascar, where my grandmother's family is from. That is one on my bucket list. Before we die, we will get to Madagascar together. Okay, I gave you guys some time now. Come on.
Let's see. All right, so Cape Town is actually on my bucket list. I haven't been there yet, but it's on my list. We knocked Dubai off last year. So Cape Town. is there. And then I have not done this yet, but my son and his girlfriend went last year, is I still have to skydive. I have not done that yet. So I want to, you've done that one, Ann, already? I've got
No,
to do that. It's on your list. All right. I want to do that. I just, at least once, I want to try it. And so yeah, those are two that's on on my list. You know, I told you I'm the adventurous type. So so that's on, those two are at the top.
Okay.
um, my bucket list. Well, I feel like a copycat, but these things were on my bucket list to begin with. So my first, believe it or not, was to go to Madagascar because I had a coworker who opened my brain to that. We were in a meeting and we were talking about our travel for this year, and I was like, "Well, I'm going to Washington D.C. to see my son for the 860th time," and they were like, "I'm going to Australia. I'm going to, to tour the Mediterranean, all those things." I'm like, "Okay, they're doing fun stuff." And then someone said, "I'm going to Madagascar." And I went, "What?" For some reason, that possibility was not even in my brain. And so once I heard that, I've become slightly obsessed because of my love of plants. But then the other thing is that I've always had a skydiving. So I feel like I'm copycatting, but I guess it is to remain open to other bucket list items that could come in my door. So
So, definitely that trip to Madagascar and to Cape Town is on my bucket list. One of the things, though, that I really want to do is I am interested in writing a book to kind of capture some of the wisdom from the generations of women to pass down to these new generations. You know, we have a rich oral history. And not all of our young ladies get to take advantage of that oral history. Not all of our young ladies have those generations of women before them. And I just think sometimes when I'm talking to these young mothers, when I'm talking to these young ladies, I'm like, I just like to, just have something to just capture some of that, you know? So that's probably the other thing that's on my bucket list. I love traveling. So Madagascar, Cape Town, here we come.
And the reason why I hesitated is because I felt that I was like, oh, I don't have a bucket list. And the reason why is because I try to live in the here and now. And so whatever I want to do, I just want to be about getting it done. But I definitely don't want to live in regret. I think that's always been on my mind. And so I didn't want to put something on a list and then, oh my God, what if I didn't achieve it? So I definitely try to live in the here and now. And at this age, I'm just trying to do, if I think of something that I want to do, then I want to be about going to do that as soon as possible and not save it up or plan and so far in ahead that it doesn't get done. If something pops in my mind, then I'm really working towards getting it done. So if that's considered a bucket list, then I actually don't have anything on it right now still because I've done everything that was that I had wanted to do before in a way. So, so again, I'm just more at this age a here and now type person, and ready to get it done.
And that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I love
So this has just been an enriching opportunity to speak with you, ladies. My takeover for the month of Women's History Month, month of March, MG has had a chance to just fulfill a lot of things we wanted to get done. I will say this, Dr. Anderson, if you want to write that book, I do know a publishing company, Purpose Publishing. I'm not sure who owns that. It might be MG, but anyway, I'll put you two together so you can work on that. MG, I officially turn it back over to you, my dear. Thank you for allowing me to take over Women's History Month, and the reins are now yours.
Maurice, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks. You have done an outstanding job. So I know you are now the go to whenever we need to have a guest, moderator, host. I know who to call upon. Maurice Jenkins Sr. is going to be the go to guy for doing just that. But I want to say thank you to all of you amazing young women who have come on. It has been a pleasure, first of all, getting to know you all and hearing your beautiful stories, learning about each and every one of you, the work that you're doing in your different industries and spaces. Oh my goodness, look at these beautiful guests that have joined us. Hello.
Hi, lady.
Are these your granddaughters?
These are my granddaughters, Leliana and Naila.
Hello,
Hi,
ladies.
ladies, Leliana.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you guys for dropping in. And you guys have tuned in actually to a beautiful time. As a matter of fact, it'll probably be a day when you guys will be taking over the Reimagine You Lab podcast and hosting your own show. And we'll be tuning in as spectators and listeners and the audience to what your perspective is and what you have to say about Women's History Month. This has been a tremendous opportunity. To all of our wonderful listening audience, we thank you for tuning in each week and hearing about all of the wonderful guests, learning about change, learning about history this month. This has been a pleasure. There's always these new perspectives, some things that we can learn, things that we can take away. I want you to be in touch with all of these amazing women because there's some different things that each of them can lend to you in terms of advice with and theories, and I know Dana is going to be sharing a fast that she's going to be teaching each of us. Dr. Asega, we got another conversation that's going to be coming up so that she can share and impart to you, and then Dr. Jerry is going to be sharing with us. Listen, you bring peace to the place, and people need that in all of the chaos and confusion that is going on. And Maurice is going to be teaching us strategies. So I want you to check in, tune in, because there's a lot that's going to be offered there. We've got some amazing guests that are going to be coming on, just even out of from the connections, the places, the things that these individuals have, and they're going to be sharing all of the resources and tools and techniques and things that they are using are impacting lives in their communities, but they can make some impact in the communities that you serve as well. So make sure that you reach out and get in contact with each of them, and make sure that you also tune in for when they're going to be coming back. So I leave you with next Friday. There's going to be another show. Make sure that you are tuned in. If you have hit the subscribe button, we will notify you. So make sure that you do that. And certainly share this show with all of your friends, family, colleagues, or any of those that you know are ready to make a change, because change is only a choice. And remember that you cannot change things don't happen in your life by chance. They can happen if you are willing to make a change. So tune in, Reimagine You Lab Podcast. I love you. This is MG. We're going to sign off. I hope you have celebrated well for International Women's History Month, and we will see you back here real soon. Love you. Yes, thank you for being here, and I look forward to talking to you all very, very soon and again. Bye until next time.
Bye.